Well, good morning. Welcome to First Parish Unitarian Universalist in Medfield. We're so pleased that you're here with us today, and welcome to all of you who are streaming in from home as well. We hope you'll stay for social hour following the service. This congregation first gathered in 1651, and this historic meeting house where we worship was built in 1789, which was and is still now unceded ancestral lands of the Nipmuc Nation, who inhabited this area for thousands of years prior to the arrival of the European colonists. Friends, welcome. Welcome to this place. Here we search for truth and understanding. Here we celebrate life and we contemplate its mysteries. Here we share healing and wholeness. So whoever you are, wherever you come from, whomever you love, we welcome you to this congregation.
The Symbol of Our Shared Faith by Paul Stephan Dondenhoff. Joy and grief, health and sickness, light and darkness, peace and anger, life and death, wholeness and brokenness. We each bring all of these here to this sanctuary of united in diversity, for this 1 hour of this one day, and pour them out, co-mingling the oil of our lives to become the flame of this chalice, the symbol of our shared living faith.
Out of the depths unknown, the spark of life ignites and we are born. We enter a world, a universe, not of our making. Our lives unfold in mystery and in wonder. Questions abound for which there are no definite answers. And so we gather in community to seek in one another assurance and recognition, compassion, and strength. We gather in community to be reminded of what is most ultimate and of what is most sacred. Come, let us worship together. Please rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn. It's number 57 in your gray hymnal, All Beautiful, the March of Days. You may be seated. And for all of those we've lost recently or long ago, I'll now light our candle of remembrance. Let's quiet our hearts now as we enter into this time of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, Spirit of love. In an unsettled world, we seek a few moments to turn away from the noise and confusion of our lives. We seek to enter a stillness that resides in the depths of each of us. Stillness that is at the center of all that exists. For a few moments, let us seek quiet. Not the quiet that is the absence of noise, for there's always noise. Rather, it is like the stillness of a friend listening. The moonlight on freshly fallen snow. The noontime silence of sunlight on a lake. Silence of a new idea, a thought that makes the world pause. Quiet of a child sleeping. Silence that brings renewal, brings hope, that brings love. Let's hold this silence in our hearts as we enter into a time of silent meditation. Amen. Now I'd invite forward Patty Castle for the morning's reading.
Winter as Crucible by Catherine May. The changes that take place in winter are a kind of alchemy, an enchantment performed by ordinary creatures to survive. Plants and animals don't fight the winter. They don't pretend it's not happening and attempts to carry on living the same lives they have lived in the summer. They prepare. They adapt. They perform extraordinary acts of metamorphosis to get through. Winter is a time of withdrawing from the world, maximizing scant resources, carrying acts of brutal efficiency, and vanishing from sight. But that's where the transformation occurs. Winter is not the death of the life cycle, but the crucible.
Thank you, Patty. Well, friends, as we enter into the season of shorter days and longer nights, we can sometimes feel a palpable shift. How will the growing darkness affect our mental and spiritual health? Well, since ancient times, countless traditions have recognized this shift. Solstice celebrations use fire to help bring back the light. Jewish tradition will soon have the Festival of Lights, where candles are lit for Hanukkah. Christians are currently in the period of Advent, waiting for the light of the world to be born on Christmas. I know that things for many of us have been hard recently. We've had much to worry about. Health issues, jobs, children, parents, marriages, as well as all of the global issues that bombard us from every direction. I don't need to remind any of you how much there is to worry about, what there is to feel really bad about. However, I know that sometimes we get so focused on the awful stuff that we tend to lose focus of the fact that this awful stuff isn't all that there is to life. The problem is that when we view our life of being so narrowly focused, we lose sight of the bigger picture. The lens through which we look becomes cloudy, becomes so cloudy that it becomes difficult to see things clearly and to keep things in perspective. To recognize joy where it exists and to live with the ambiguity, the paradox, and the complexity that goes along with all of that. One of those simple sayings that's been a guiding force for me for decades now is the observation that he who laughs lasts. And it has been true for me. I know that when I lose the impulse to laugh, I'm really, really in bad shape. And so what I'm going to do today is encourage us all to maybe lighten up a bit. It may sound frivolous to say that we should eat, drink, and be merry, but it seems that, like laughter, that's what's good for our souls. And what better time to lighten up than right now, a little over 2 weeks before Christmas, when folks with furrowed brows maneuver their carts through crowded aisles, snapping at their children who lag behind, when folks fidget in long lines approaching the cash register, obviously annoyed as they check their watches. A couple of days ago when I was out shopping, I overheard this irate customer. She accused this harried clerk of being lazy. See, this clerk had told the woman that the store was out of gift boxes. You just don't want to go into the back room and look for more, the customer complains. And I thought to myself, oh boy, here we go. I think it's time to lighten up a bit. Well, I was next in line and I had only a gift card in my hand. So I leaned over and I whispered to the clerk, I won't be needing a box. We looked at each other and both of us burst out laughing, and all of the tension was suddenly gone. Something this time of the year, sometimes with this time of year with Christmas approaching, I'll write a sermon about Jesus in order to talk about our Unitarian Universalist understanding of him as a historical figure, as a teacher, as a prophet, as an exemplar of how to live our lives. Well, I confess that this sermon as well is about Jesus, but instead of talking about Jesus as a liberal scholar of the Bible, I'm going to talk about the Jesus who very possibly could have said, a birthday coming up? Holidays? Time to eat, drink, and to be merry. I'm going to talk about a Jesus who drank wine and told stories while eating with all kinds of people. According to some of the non-canonical Gospels, those that didn't make it into the official canon found in the Bible, this is a Jesus who danced, a Jesus who laughed. Thomas More's book, Writing in the Sand, is a commentary on the Gospels in which he offers an image of Jesus that could be startling for those who grew up with what Thomas calls a vanilla Jesus. Thomas More's credentials include not only the fact that he's a Jungian psychotherapist, but he also has a solid grounding in theology, in world religion, in art history, in ancient mythology. He spent his younger years in a monastery preparing to be a priest, and today calls himself a Zen Catholic, not a believer in the Jesus who was, quote, the bland moralist offering pie-in-the-sky rewards for good living, but instead an admirer of the earthy Jesus, the one who lived the good life of friends, community, and a fascinating original philosophy. Thomas More writes, when I was 10 years old, I saw the sci-fi film The Day the Earth Stood Still. It's about a man who comes to Earth in a spaceship to tell the warring governments of Earth not to bring their conflicts out into space. Like a Gnostic messenger, he travels here to warn human beings to change their way of life. This movie draws parallels to the story of Jesus, whose mission was not to draw attention to himself, but to transform the way human beings live. It's as though Jesus descended from another planet to tell us where we are going wrong and how our basic assumptions are way off base. That is why we're so caught up in wars and injustice and inequalities. We assume that these gaps in human intelligence are natural and inevitable. Jesus talks as a visitor unfamiliar with this reasoning and offers a way out of our stupidity. His purpose for being here was not to form a religion, but instead to transform the world, not to exploit this life for a heavenly reward, but to establish heaven on earth. Well, those of us who are familiar with Jesus will know the story of his birth. We know that it is said that he could perform miracles, that he could heal the sick and raise the dead and turn water into wine. We know that he taught in parables, confusing, paradoxical, thinking outside the box parables. We know that he had a lot of followers, most of whom didn't understand most of what he was teaching. We know that he defied conventional practices and assumptions, that he gathered all kinds of people around his table, saints and sinners alike. We know that he got angry, that he was quick to forgive, and there were times when he was afraid, when he felt abandoned. We know that he experienced pain and that he suffered. All this we know about Jesus because of all of the stories told about him. But so often the Jesus portrayed by true believers is not this complex, earthy Jesus, but instead the perfect Son of God Jesus, the fair-skinned Jesus with silky robes, eyes cast piously toward the heavens. It's the Jesus with clean feet and fingernails, staff in hand, leading his sheep, or sitting with children surrounding him. Well, the Jesus that Thomas More talks about in this book of his is a deeply spiritual Jesus, a talented teacher with an extraordinary way of looking at life and offering alternatives, someone who is very serious and who paid dearly for it. But he was no ascetic like John the Baptist, who lived in caves, who lived in tattered garments and refused to eat bread or drink wine. Jesus was deeply spiritual, it's true, but he was also earthy and enjoyed the simple pleasures of life. In fact, Thomas goes as far as calling him an Epicurean. Well, today we think of an Epicurean as being someone who loves fancy food and drinks too much. But the philosopher Epicurus taught that life's deepest and most lasting pleasures must be enjoyed in moderation. He taught that food and fellowship were important ways to care for the soul, but he was not a hedonist. And so it was with Jesus the Epicurean, neither ascetic nor hedonist, but someone who drank wine and gathered with friends and strangers around the table, obviously taking delight in the fellowship and the food, which not only keeps the body healthy, but keeps the spirit and soul healthy as well. There's a story told in the book of Luke in which a Pharisee asked Jesus to eat with him. And so Jesus went into the house and sat at the table. A woman who had a bad reputation in town heard that he was having dinner at the home of the Pharisee and brought an alabaster full of oil. As she knelt down at his feet, her tears began to fall, wetting his feet. She wiped them with her hair, kissed them, and anointed them with the oil. The Pharisee host said to him, "If this man were a prophet, he would know what kind of woman is touching him and that she is wicked." The gospel picks up the story. Well, Jesus said to him, "Simon, I want to tell you something." He said, "Teacher, speak to me." 2 men owed money to a tender. One owed $500, the other $50. Neither could afford to pay him, so he canceled both of their debts. Now, which of them do you think will love him more? Simon replied, "I suppose the one who was freed of the larger debt." Turning toward the woman, he said to Simon, "Do you see this woman? When I came into your house, you didn't offer me water for my feet, but she wet my feet with her tears and dried them with her hair. You didn't kiss me, but this woman hasn't stopped kissing my feet since I arrived. You didn't offer me oil for my head, but she has poured oil on my feet. I'm telling you because she has so much love, her many acts of wickedness are forgiven. Whoever has found forgiveness for something small doesn't love as much." Then Jesus told her, "Your bad behavior is forgiven." Yes, this is a story of forgiveness, of course, a story about transformation in a person who needs it the most. But it also shows how much Jesus appreciated a degree of sensuality and physical care. Washing, oil, a kiss of greeting. Jesus affirms these simple sensual acts of kindness and civility. Excessive purity and moralistic judgment have no place in this story. Jesus taught that we are to love ourselves and to love our neighbors, not an abstract, bodiless love, not a love that has no need for friendship or physical warmth. Thomas More says, having good friends, treating people well, operating in every instance from a rule of love rather than judgment, this is the soul of the Gospels. Living from the heart, enjoying life, seeking the deep and ordinary pleasures, eating in such a way that everyone is invited to your table. These are the soulful rules of conduct demonstrated in the Gospels. Well, the Gospel of Thomas says this. His students asked him, "When will the kingdom be here?" Jesus answered, "It will not come by waiting for it. It will not be a matter of saying, 'Here it is,' or 'There it is.' No, the Spirit of the Father is spread out on the earth, and people don't see it. The blessings, the beauty are spread before us," this passage says, "and we don't see it." I know that some of you are seriously worried about things that are happening in your lives. Some of you are in pain. That some of you wonder if life is worth the struggle sometimes. I know that some of you worry about the world we've created for our children and what their future might hold in store. I know that some of you are just preoccupied right now with the long list of things that you have to do before the holidays. You're exhausted, short-tempered, and stressed. Our souls may be pretty frayed right now and in need of some tender, loving care. The other day, I ran into a family that hadn't been to church in several months. They were quick to apologize, saying that they're just too busy to take time to come out here on Sundays. Well, I must have given them the look, because they quickly added, "Oh, we know. It's when we're at our busiest that we need church the most." And it's true. Maybe not church every Sunday, although that would make me happy, but other ways in which we can pause long enough to keep things in perspective, to actually notice the feast spread before us. Yes, we have worries. Yes, we have fears. Yes, we have anxieties. But life is offering us so much more than that. We don't have to look very far or very hard to find those things in which to be grateful, those things that will nourish our souls. We're in the midst of the holiday season right now. Soon it'll be Hanukkah, solstice, Christmas, New Year's. What better time to gather with those we love? Family, friends, perhaps even strangers, sitting together at the table, eating, drinking, maybe even playing games together. There's always talking and laughing, lots of laughing. So friends, take a deep breath. See if you can find ways to lighten up a bit. Remember the Jesus portrayed by Thomas More, who had plenty to worry about, who was deadly serious, and yet could laugh and could dance. Don't let these moments slip away unnoticed and unappreciated. So friends, I'd encourage you all to make merry in all the days to come. So may it be. Now I'd invite Mary Corthell to introduce our offering.
Good morning. So taking it from where Rev Dave left off, in the moments of awe, especially in winter, that appear from the moment the sun comes up until the sun goes down, and in the spirit of gratitude for this congregation and all the work we do together, we take this offering to the church for the work we do. Thank you.
Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, Bells in the High Tower, number 56 in your gray hymnal. Friends, as we prepare to leave this sacred space, remember that within each of our hearts there is a most glorious light. Go forth and let its spark help you understand what troubles both you and others. Go forth and let its light of reason be a guide in your decisions. Go forth and bring its ray of hope to those in need of help in both body and in spirit, and they may find healing. Go forth and fan the flames of passion to help heal our world. Go forth and spread the warm glow of love, pushing back the darkness of the world. Go forth and share your most glorious light with the world. I'll now extinguish our chalice, but may its light and warmth stay in our hearts until we meet again. Here ends our worship. Let our service begin.